I don't know. You can see both my presentation and my face. Okay, so
Yes.
I am Luzianne Carlos Henches, and I am a civil and environmental engineer at Leidos. And Leidos is a Fortune 500 information technology, engineering, and science solutions and services leader working to solve the world's toughest challenges in defense, intelligence, homeland security, civil, and health market, which is why I was fortunate enough to be a part of the team that worked on this Department of Defense tool. And we provided technical support for the tool and the report, but we did not develop it. So this is the website that we're going to go into. So, and then that's my email in case anybody has any questions at the end of it. And I did not practice changing between sharing this and sharing a different screen. Let's see. And slideshow. Can you see my internet page? Or is it still a PowerPoint?
It's still the PowerPoint.
Okay. New share.
Yeah, I think that's what you need to do if you're switching to the web. Like stop the share and then share again. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is what you would see with that link that I had. And this tool was made for the DoD, and it's basically meant for DoD decision makers. And the primary purpose is to enhance and increase the efficacy of screening level vulnerability and impact assessment for DoD coastal and tidally influenced sites worldwide. So this report here, view report, and the actual tool was finalized in 2016, but it has not been made available until, well, the report was made available, but the tool was not made available. It was just now released in 2021 for everyone to be able to play with it. But the installations and everything that is shown is just DoD sites. So even though everyone can play with it, it's not going to show you different locations. So this is the report. You can click on it and it'll pop up the PDF. It's about 250 pages. And it's not a user guide, but it does provide a lot of information, a lot of background information and the calculations and assumptions and everything that went into creating this tool. So it is really useful. It goes hand in hand with the tool, but it's not the user guide. So we can go to site lookup, map view, or service dashboard. By service dashboard, that means the branches. And then it's also up here. So if we go into site lookup, the top row is still going to be there. It's always going to be there. And you can go back to the homepage here with the DRSL, which is the DoD regionalized sea level. So let's go back to site lookup. And this, you can start typing any keyword. So you can put Virginia, you can put an installation name, you can put different countries. So this, you can just start populating and it'll show up here. It'll start filtering. Another way to identify a location is through the map view. So here you can see the legend will tell you the military branch that it is showing. When it has the big circle, such as a cluster of a lot of different locations that once you zoom in, it'll be able to show you better the locations. So let's go to Virginia and we can just click. You can hover over the site and it'll give you the name of it. Sometimes when they're really close by, you're not sure which one it is that you're looking for. So you can just hover without actually clicking on it. Once you click on it, it's still not going to take you just yet to the site. And then we say view site. Now we're in the site, the more information specific location. So here it has different tabs and you can change between the units, meters or feet. And this top part will always stay the same even when you change tabs. And that's just general information about that installation. So for example, this is NAS Oceana. It's a Navy installation and it is giving you the latitude, longitude, and lowest elevation. As you can see, there are also a lot of little icons here that have an eye. That's for information. And it tries to be as self-explanatory as possible. That's basically the user guide here, but it's already broken down throughout the tool. So it's a lot quicker to use and you don't have to be toggling back and forth. And if you scroll down, let's go here. Okay, so this is it. This is all the information. And what this tries to do is to provide as much information as clearly as possible, but it is not telling anybody what to do. This is just information that it is being shared for the decision makers at each installation site. So here, these 2035 scenarios, these are the time horizons. And then this scenario is the lowest to highest. So this is, right now we're in meters, 0.2 to 2 meters. And those are the boundaries that in the report, it's explained why that was chosen. And it was due to a lot of research and a lot of people in the community. That's what has been decided. So the scenario, the lowest, this means it is a linear progression of how the sea level has been changing since 1992. So there's nothing, it's just a linear progression of how it has been changing. And then the other 4, it's a quadratic form, a quadratic equation that is further explained in the report again. And it explains and it elaborates into the assumptions that are made. So as everything related to a climate change, there's a lot of uncertainty and it is covered in the report. And it's just something that we, as environmental engineers and people in this arena, we understand that there is a lot of uncertainty, but that doesn't mean that we cannot take action. So yes, there's uncertainty, but you're better able to make decisions with this information here provided. So the site-specific adjustments here, it's because as you may or may not know, when there's sea level change, so let's say there's a 2 feet change in Virginia, it doesn't mean it's gonna be a 2 feet change in Hawaii or Europe or even New York, same coast. It's site specific. So again, here, the little icon will further explain why that happens. And it is separated between the vertical, ocean circulation, and ice effects. So this one doesn't have any, let me see. Here, once you have the ice melt effects, it will have these 3 little ice cubes and even further explain how that was calculated. And then the total site-specific adjustments is just this, adding all of these. And the site-specific sea level change projection is the finalized equation, which is also shown down here. This tries to be as transparent and as most informative as possible. As I've mentioned, this is for decision makers. This is not telling anybody what to do. This is just providing the information, and then you at the installation will be better able to assess and figure out what it is that you want to do. So then with this, you're able to identify projections of sea level change. And then in this tab, it is the extreme water levels. Again, it explains, in this tab, it will explain, it tries to be as self-explanatory as possible. And for the extreme water levels, it's calculated in a couple of different ways. It can either take from multiple gauges or a single gauge. So the tide gauges are here at the end, and it will show you which ones it is pulling from. So when it is single gauge it's pulling from, it means that there's one by the site. So it's pulling from that one. And you can see it here, it says site. So that's the single gauge. And then when it's the multiple ones, it is pulling from all of these. Depending on what it is that you're trying to use this information for, you may want to use the one just at that location or just the amalgamation of all of the tide gauges information. The tide gauge information is used because the changes in sea level are a very complex combination of the tide-driven and storm-driven components that have strong seasonal patterns. So again, depending on what it is that you're trying to use it for, you may want to use one or the other. They're slightly different sometimes, maybe not. So here at the 20% annual chance event, they're showing the same amount, yet in the following ones, it does start to vary. So what this is showing here, So here is the, for example, the 20% annual chance event. And then below it, it explains to you in different terms. This is the same as a 5-year event. So some people refer to it as the X year event. Other people refer it as the percent annual chance event. So we try to include both depending on who you are and what you use at your installation or your preference. So we covered as much as we could. So the extreme water level statistics is the height above the mean higher high water. So that's this value. What that means, it's the higher of 2 high tides experienced per tidal day. So this would read as the extreme water level associated with a 5% annual chance event, which is the same as the 20-year event, which will reach an elevation of 1.4 meters above the mean higher high water for this site. Again, the mean higher high water is the higher of 2 high tides that are experienced per tidal day. And then there's another tab here that combines both the sea level and the extreme water level. So again, information. We're just trying to provide as much information as possible for the DoD installations to then do what they need to do for their locations. Sometimes they'll want just the level change, sometimes they'll just want the extreme, and sometimes they'll want the combination. So here you can toggle between, like I just read the 5%, so we can click on that one, and all of this down here, the global scenarios are updated, and then this is the multiple gauge versus the single gauge. And then you're able to pick and choose whichever ones you want, or you're just aware. You don't have to pick and choose anything, but you can just see the trends and see what could happen, and you can prepare for that. As I mentioned at the beginning, the main purpose is for better screening levels for vulnerability. So here you're able to see, let's say, the 100-year event, which is the worst. And let's go to multiple gauge analysis, and then the highest scenario, which means that the highest increase, which for 2035 is 2.7 meters. So we can also change that to feet. So that is 8.8 feet. What can you do with this information at the installation? You can better assess, do you want to move? Maybe you have buildings that have a lot of IT at the ground level, and you are planning on making some upgrades to that installation or to that location. So instead of actually investing all of that money, time, and effort into just making it better, you just decide altogether to move to a different location. You can also assess that it's not that bad because that's just a broom closet that you have in that building. So you've analyzed it, you've annotated the risks to that location, and you've assessed it. And for you or for that installation, it wasn't a big deal. But you have gone through the process of actually analyzing what is at risk, what are the chances, and then you can revisit in further down years. But you do have a way of just thinking about it. Again, screening level is just kind of the step one of, is this important or not? So let's say that the 8.8 feet is a lot and you do have IT equipment and you want to think of something else. Now that you're aware of it, you can go to the next step. You can start doing something else towards it. So that's what this tool is for. It's trying to be informative, simple, quick. So for installations to just see it, very simple, very easy, and to better analyze if it's going to be a problem for them or not, and not waste resources. And then the trends tab here is just a visual for better seeing the different scenarios. Sometimes a lot of people prefer this, or let's say that the civil engineer is trying to explain why a decision needs to be made, and they'll need visuals for their presentation. So instead of having to transfer all of this information and recreate it, it's here, and it's easy to just print this and include it in their presentation. And then we've covered the tide gauges. It explains, you can also click on them and it'll take you to that station ID, the station website and actually has a lot more information. So again, you don't have to stay here. There's a few links outside that will take you outside, and you can just browse and better understand the information. So you can kind of pull on the thread to get further information if you want to. Another way to see this, excuse me, is through services. So you can just choose the services that you're interested. Let's say Air Force Guard. So if you click here in this dashboard, what this is pulling up is going to be the highest service scenarios. So it's not necessarily, it's not all of them. It can be all of them if you want to, but right now this up here in the scenarios is showing you the worst ones, the ones with the highest level of sea level rise and then the extreme water levels. Again, we've done the map view, site lookup. It's very simple to use. That was the whole intent. So if you start typing Virginia, I'll like Virgie, and then it just pulled all of these up. You can try to change it to have more so you're not scrolling through as many pages. And then it has the user guide. This again was meant for the DoD decision makers, but it's being made available for everybody. And what this can do is actually let other people see this and test it out and see if it's something that would be helpful for them, for either any company. If they want to do this for their locations, they can see if this is something that would be helpful with their master designers, master planners, civil engineers, and that's why it's been shared. It's trying to collaborate with others. So at first it was just DoD wanted to work out all the kinks, and it did work out for them, and it's been very successful into better assessing and better planning. So that was one site in Virginia. Let's go here all the way to Beale Air Force Base. So then you can see the different zero vertical land movement. You can have different scenarios. So here at 2065, it's already having ice melt effects. And you can change between these two. So the whole purpose of it is so it's very easy to use, but it's also just information. We're not trying to tell anybody what to do. This is meant for the people to have information and then do what they can or what they want with it. It's just to integrate it into the installations. They already tend to have their own tools that they've been using so far to try to figure out the risk vulnerability. And this is just to help them out a little bit more. So I believe that is all I have. If there are any questions, feel free to ask me now or send me an email. Let me see. So the report, I know it's super long, but it's really cool. It has a lot of information. It also goes through a scenario sample case study. So it actually maps through GIS, it's a geographic information system. It zooms in into one of these locations in this map, and it will give you the different scenarios and at different colors zoomed in, and you can better assess and better see visually what would be flooded. So it's a really cool resource for other purposes as well. The end.
Lizanne, there is a question about how you add a location. If the location that you're interested in is not one of the installations, but you want to use the tool.
Is the location a military installation, or is it just a random location?
I think the question is for a random location.
Yeah, so that's the thing. This is meant for DoD, so they can't add other locations. It's right now kind of just letting other people see it, and if it would work for them, and then they can create it.
So then you'd maybe do something like find the nearest installation to the place that you're looking for, because there are quite a few of them.
Yes, there's a lot of them. You can scroll out. There's also out here. All the way out there.
And if I could just ask, I'm curious to know, this tool, I know you said at the beginning, and I probably just missed it. It's been available for how long?
Since 2021 to the public, but we didn't develop it, but it's been available. We worked with them, so I keep saying we, but since 2016.
Oh, wow. Are there examples of how it has been used?
I don't have them to share. In the report, they did mention a few ways. So there is confidential information, so we can't really say a lot, but that's also part of the whole thing, is that it has been used, and it's been in use by the military since 2016, so way ahead of all of us. And it's because they do have a lot of locations, and as you can see, on the coast, and they are very worried that they're going to be flooded and that they can't carry out their mission, and their budget is tight, and it's something that they've had on their radar for a while. I'm sure you've seen in the news, there was one, I think it was Tyndall Air Force Base. Oh, I forget where it is. That's Eglin. Somewhere around here, there was that hurricane a few years ago, and I think it was the hurricane, and it completely flooded it, and it had aircraft, and it was really bad. So all of these locations are really on the coast, and if it just rains, we're not talking about a hurricane, but with just rain, it can really flood and do a lot of damage. So let's say like there was a hurricane, so when they're rebuilding, you can go and look at this, and is it worth rebuilding in the same location to just get flooded next year, or should we just kind of go somewhere else?
That's really fascinating.
There's a lot of them down here.
And Jim, it looks like you shared a link to a NOAA resource.
Yeah, it doesn't have as much additional GIS data as the one here developed for the military installations. But if you go to that link and click on, it's called the viewer, sea level rise viewer, there will be a scale on the left side with a big circular button that you can just move up to see what happens at 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, 4 foot, the whole way up to 10 feet. And then you begin to see where the real problems are, not only with the height or the change over time, but also big surges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so DoD works with NOAA a lot. Part of the people developing this tool, we help, but NOAA did help as well, and they're part of the report.
And I think that's a really great example of how to pursue careers in these fields. So if you have a comfort with these kinds of data and enjoy building these kinds of tools, you'll find that DoD might create money that NOAA uses to hire contractors to build these tools for them. And just like you suggested earlier, Lizanne, the things that are developed for the military eventually become available to us as naturalists as well. In fact, a lot of tools built for things like iNaturalist were originally built for, not specifically iNaturalist, but were built for other scientific purposes.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot that goes into a career in the environmental world, and it has not necessarily environmental, like GIS. There's a lot of engineering that goes behind it. So I think that any career, you can make it into environmental if you want. So you can study anything you want and then end up here.
And I think that's why civil and environmental engineering are often the same major.
Yes.
In many universities.
Yes.
Well, I don't see more questions right now. Lizanne, that was really fascinating, and I want to thank you for presenting that and for being our first SEAS out of region attendee. You know, usually our event is an in-person event, so people don't have the option of coming to us from the West Coast, but I want to definitely thank you for that.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's been great. It has its perks now that we're doing a lot of things remote. So joining all the way from Washington State.
Well, and happy Earth Day to you.
Thank you, you too.